Good evening, chaps. How are we?
Very well, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, boys. Very good. What's new?
Well, more of the same, I think, at the moment. I'm more excited about who we're going to talk to tonight, I think.
Yes, it's our second guest panellist, isn't it? Following from Chucky Boy a few weeks ago. So this is James, otherwise known as Auto Amateur, and he's got a YouTube channel and a podcast and a website which documents his Porsche adventures, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's done a nice little job there. He's got a good little repertoire of stuff going on.
I think he's gone through the motions, hasn't he? He's gone 996, 997, 991, and he's about to go full circle into a 996 project as well.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get him on. We'll ask him to elaborate a little bit more on what this Project 996 actually is, and get him to join in on some thoughts that we've got on the new 992 Targa, as well as some great roads that we cannot wait to hit up as soon as this lockdown madness has lifted a little bit. Should we get him on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hello, James.
Is that the famous 993, Andy?
The famous.
Flattery will get you nowhere on this podcast.
Good attempt, though, James.
Yeah, exactly. Straight in. And James, we should also have Joe lurking as well. And Joe, likewise, meet James.
Hi, James. How you doing?
Hey, Joe. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. No compliments for me then.
Well, Lee just said it's not going to work, so I'm going to save my breath.
He's gone the other way. He's gone icy.
And everyone's blushing.
Yeah. James, how are things, my man? How are things over there?
I don't know. At the moment, in the evening right now, I'm on a mission to stay away from the fridge and the TV because it's just that's my favorite pastime, to be perfectly honest with you, is eating and watching TV. So if I'm not doing that, then my second favorite pastime is tinkering in the garage without food, but with a wrench in the car. So I try and keep myself either at work or playing around with the kids or Porsche stuff and my wife. But it is funny. A lot of people ask me that question: how do I kind of fit it all in? I guess I'm just good at juggling.
Is it interesting that you, James? I think you just put your wife at the end of that list. Just not.
She, hey, listen. She knows where her place is, just like I know where my place is. Are you ready?
Brave man.
I'm waiting for the sound of a frying pan hitting your head.
Yeah, that sounds like the most diplomatic of responses. There, are you sure you're not a politician in your day job, James? You know, as I said, it's brilliant to have you on here because, like us, you've also got your own podcast. It's the Auto Amateur podcast, as well as your YouTube channel as well, and. I don't know about you, but it's great to link up and collaborate because we are all singing off the same hymn sheet here, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I've said this openly on several YouTube videos that I actually stalked you for a while because I got into Total 911 magazine and come to learn who you were and what you were driving, and that was the same sort of time that I bought my 996, and you had the 996 at the time. Then started following you through Instagram, and I just really liked what you were putting out there. I mean, the content of the magazine is excellent, but you as an individual, I just was really interested in what you had to say. And then, some random thing happened where one of your mates was the, brother of one of my mates, and all of a sudden it's like I've got this connection with you, and now here we are, and we're talking Porsche and we're having a laugh, and I love how that all kind of works.
I think you need to stop there, James. His head's swelling.
Yeah,
I can see it from here.
It's only a small room, I mean. So yeah, but that was weird, wasn't it? I remember I was at a wedding. I just put like a picture up on a story on Instagram, and you messaged me, didn't you? Going, I'm pretty sure I know like the person standing behind you. It was so like small world. Like talk about worlds colliding. Properly hilarious.
Totally.
But it is really cool. James, tell us then, and for people that don't know, what is Auto Amateur and this absolute like manic project and adventure that you've taken yourself on?
That's a good question, and I think the answer sort of seems to change every year. And right now, it's sort of changing again. I started Auto Amateur about 4 years ago, almost in response to a dare from another YouTuber who at the time was driving a 996 in Arizona somewhere, a guy called Quentin, and he has this channel called Quentin TV. At the time I was researching 996s, I wanted to buy one. I left a few comments on his channel. Once, a few months passed, I bought my car. He was sending me messages saying, "Hey, did you get your 996? I want to see it on YouTube, make a video." So I thought, okay, I guess I will. Anyway, long story short, a couple of videos has turned into like 100 videos, and now I've got to the point where I'm sort of actively soliciting ideas and suggestions from people watching my channel, which is sort of like directing my content creation. So previously, my videos were all about kind of DIY jobs. I enjoyed just putting my newborn child to bed, getting out into the garage, spending a couple of hours just tinkering around and making a DIY on how to make an oil change video, or how to change a tire, sort of simple stuff like that, because I
or
found
stab
it
a steering wheel.
or stab a steering wheel, yeah.
That's
never
the
gonna live
famous
that
one, isn't
down.
it? Yeah.
It is. Where and through the channel I've met people, like Lee and a bunch of people close by where I live here in the Twin Cities, and now I'm just sort of taking advantage of putting a camera in front of pretty much anything I'm doing. So if I'm going to a car show, or I'm fixing the car, or I'm helping a friend work on a car, or we do a drive together, throw the drone up, add a GoPro somewhere, and just see what I can capture. And I don't publish everything I film. I try and sort of like whittle out the stuff I'm not really that interested in. But yeah, I'm now at a point where I feel like I've got a bit of a formula, and I've got DIY videos, I've got driving videos, and I'm now launching this project called Project 996, which I'm like half excited about and half terrified that it's going to bankrupt me and drive me insane.
Sounds like a 996 to me.
But you've got some partners in crime, haven't you, for this?
Yeah, I do. I've met. So I've been in the States now for about full time for about 10 years, and for the first 8 years, I didn't really have any like friends. I guess. I mean, I had one or two friends through work, but all my friends were my wife's social group. My wife's friends, she's American. And this past couple of years, since owning the 911, I've come to meet a lot of people. So we've got this little regional group of, people called Porsche and Pancakes. You guys have got Das Frühstücker Club, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, we're still trying to work out how to pronounce that ourselves, aren't we?
No, we've worked that out. Joe came up with the formulas, didn't he?
Don't not Frühstück Grouper. That's works well.
The Frühstück Gruppe. I nearly drove off the road laughing along when you were talking about that in your first podcast. That was pretty fun. But anyway, yeah, I've got two guys as part of this Porsches and Pancakes group that wanted to work on a project car with me, Patrick and Steve, and they're both Porsche drivers. And I just said I'd like to keep it in the garage and film it. I'm pretty open to whatever direction you guys want to go in. Let's sort of split the cost of the car and the parts and just figure it out as we go. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to sell it? We haven't kind of figured that out yet, but it's fun. And I've got to the point with my 991 where it is going to start looking like a Fast and a Furious car with floor lights underneath and a big spoiler on the back. I've done pretty much everything I want to do to the car, and I'm now like really trying to resist the temptation to go further because I think I'm going to ruin it. So I'm going to turn my attention to a 996.
You've done a lot to that 991 in such a short time. There's no stopping you, no holding you back on the modification trail.
Well, I guess so. The interesting thing about where I live is we spend sort of 6 months of the year inside for fear of freezing to death. Yeah. We just have the Arctic vortex or the polar vortex, whatever it's called, and it's freezing cold here for months at a time. So that's why people in the Twin Cities, they do a lot of, I guess, like crafting and like scrapbooking was the thing, originally, and now it's Netflix or wrenching on cars, I guess.
Going back to 996 quickly, what's in the pipeline on the plan at the moment? I'm guessing it's not completely figured out, but what's the loose plan?
So I think there are a couple of major jobs that we want to try and tackle just out of sheer interest. One is the IMS bearing replacement. And another is replacing the clutch. Things that we talk about and hear about in the Porsche world sort of all the time. And quite frankly, apart from putting my foot down on the clutch, I don't really know how it works. And short of looking at a lump of metal that people talk about and talking about the IMS, I don't really understand where it fits, how it works. And loads of people talk about it. I have people asking me questions about the IMS bearing. Should they buy a 996? Should they buy a 997? Go to a 991? So I'm interested personally in taking it apart and learning all I can about it. And I think it would make for, a sort of set of very interesting sort of DIY videos as well. So that two sort of mechanical jobs we're really interested in doing. And then quite frankly, and not to make Lee's head explode any further, but the changes that you did, Lee, to your 996, like the paint job, we might not touch the paint, but the ducktail, yes. I am so excited to get a ducktail on the back end of that car.
Do it, absolutely do it. It just changes that silhouette for the better, in my humble opinion. So
I would agree.
It sounds like a fun project, and lots going on. And I think where generally there has been, and I'm talking here, completely unbiased, despite the fact of what's on the drive, but I think the 996, I think a few people that perhaps had dismissed the car a few years ago are now starting to look at it as like a viable project, and something fun. Again, like you say, to wrench and to tinker. And I think, again, with like IMS and stuff, there's a lot of hearsay, and it's the question that's on everybody's lips as soon as you mention 996. It's all IMS. Some people don't even know what it is, and they're keen to know what exactly it is and what the problem is and stuff. So I think the more people can kind of delve into exactly what it is, what's the potential to go wrong, what are the actual percentages of when it goes wrong and the likelihood, I think that will do the community, the worldwide community, a lot of good.
Yeah. There's a guy in our group with an anniversary series 996 that has over 400,000 miles on the clock.
Wow. Absolute hats off to the owner of that car.
It's incredible, right? And the only thing he's really ever done to the car is, brakes and oil changes is how he describes it. He's like, if he maintains it, he drives it, he doesn't let it sit around, and he's never had an issue. And so I think the IMS sort of issue is an interesting one, because on the one hand, you've got people that maybe don't like Porsche so much, and so it's a good excuse to maybe throw a rock and dent the brand a little bit. They're not really as good as everyone says. I mean, look at the IMS issue. And on the other hand, the people who are really interested in buying a car but stepping up to a 911, it's quite a big leap for many people. And so there's the risk factor involved, and I think where risk and fear are involved, things just get blown out of proportion. And so you sort of combine all of those different elements, and now you've got this urban legend that every 996 at some point is going to blow up, and it's just a matter of when. That's not really the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you got a car lined up, James?
We've got a couple lined up actually. Yeah, and I don't want to say and reveal the source of the car I think we're going with, I'm afraid, because it's not a done deal yet. But there's one car in particular. There's one car in particular which is it's a C2S manual coupe, second gen 996, and that's the one we're hoping to get our hands on. And it's it's in pretty good shape, apart from it needs it needs like a new gearbox, it needs new transmission, new clutch. I think it's had the IMS done. They haven't been able to sort of confirm that. But that's the one we've got our eye on right now. We've also been looking at salvage auctions, because we quite fancied actually quite literally putting a car back together as opposed to just doing it up. I was bidding on a turbo the other day that essentially was half a car. It was missing pretty much everything up to the steering wheel from the front was gone. But that it was going for a steal. I didn't win it in the end. Some guy from Texas outbid me and stole it at the last minute. But we've got our eye on a couple. But before we've even really got started on Project 996, I've started planning another project, which is probably way too premature to announce, but I've got my eye on a 997 and or potentially a 993. So after Project 996, I'm going to take on another project and see how we go.
Wow.
Well,
You've got
this
big
is the
plans.
absolute beauty of our setup on this podcast, where we have panelists who we consider to kind of be, like one of us, and it's exactly what you are, James, in doing what you're doing. So we would love to have you back on as a guest panelist in a future episode, where if things are progressing like that, then you'll be able to kind of talk about that if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I've got to say though, so I'm a panelist. What was the other type of guest that you've got on your show?
Well, we
Because
have.
you because
Go on,
you teed
sorry.
this up in the first video, and so I was a little nervous coming on today. It made me laugh, but you had like proper personalities and legends from the industry, like big names, and then panelists who you guys were basically gonna rib and.
Yes, exactly. I think like with the interviews, most of the time I think there's a message that the interviewee is keen to kind of push or get across. Whereas with a panelist, the message isn't necessary. I think it's just all about somebody sharing their story. And we've always said from the start on Road to Redline that absolutely everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to touch every corner of Porsche car culture. In fact, most of our interviews so far have been stateside. Bizarrely, we've not really done too much on our own borders. But
Okay.
yeah, I think that's for me the difference between the two. And again, it's kind of we like to keep things informal. And
Yeah.
if we were able to meet up and you weren't in the States, it would be great to do this in a pub over a beer. And I think that's kind of the point. Whether sometimes
Yeah.
maybe there might you might feel that that's perhaps not the correct setting for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally.
So.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, look, James, I've got a question for you. Considering that your Porsche car history is 996, 997, 991, what
Yeah.
generation kind of tugs at your heartstrings the most?
I would say the 997,
Really?
and
Okay.
I think for a couple of reasons. I really like the 993. If the 993, if you could, sort of put a pump in the side of it and squeeze some air into it and get an extra kind of 20% out of everything, the length, the width, the size, because I'm a big tall guy, I would have a 993, but I can't fit in a 993 comfortably. And I think the 997 is like the perfect combination of the analog kind of raw sort of feel of the traditional quote unquote 911 with some more sort of modern updates to it in terms of the technology and some of the additional kind of driving systems that are included, and having owned the 996, that was raw and that gave me the analog feel, but I don't miss the 996. I really miss my 997. I miss the look of it, the feel of it, the driving experience. And as awesome as the 991 is, and I've driven a few 992s now, nothing has really given me that sort of rush and real sort of feeling of nostalgia at the same time that the 997 gave me. But it has to be the first generation 991, because the second generation 991 at the back looks like Spider-Man, and I just can't get over it. It's like LED
Really?
Spider-Man eyes staring at me. I can't do it.
So it's funny with your the jump that you went from 997 to 991. I actually think that that's a path that a lot of other 997 Gen 1 owners will do, because it's a bit of a quandary at the moment, isn't it? Where the market is. If you say 997, well, you can go for, and if we say like within like the under the Carrera umbrella, you can go 997 Gen 1 C2, which you can get here for 20 grand. And then you can go all the way up to a Gen 2 GTS, which you're talking 60 grand. So if you're done with your 997 Gen 1, we'll say a GTS is it's the same generation, like, albeit yes, the Gen 2, and there are updates to it, new engine, etc. But you've got to spend 3 times the amount of money for that car, and I think for that sort of money, people want an entirely different 911 experience. Is that fair to say? Or
I would agree with that completely. Yeah, and I was sort of on the fence when I was moving from my 997 to looking actually at a Gen 2 997 GTS or either a C2 or a C2S 991, and I mean, okay, my comments about the rear lights of the second gen 997 to one side, I say that sort of tongue in cheek. It just wasn't different enough for me, even though it would have been more power and there would have been, you know, an extra few refinements here and there. It wasn't different enough. And driving the 991, the feel of the seat, the feel of the wheel, the driving experience itself, the sound of the engine, it was just a different kind of thrill. So I just felt like moving to the 991 was the right decision for me at the time. Well, having sold my 997,
did you look at many cars before you bought your one? Did you spend much time in them to sort of make that decision, or was it kind of a bit of a knee jerk, grab it and see what happens?
The actual transition, so the decision to sell my 997 and go to the 991 was, I wouldn't say knee jerk, but it all happened within about 2 weeks. Not quite as impressive as Joe, who, you know, I think you said quite a few times you've gone to service your car and you come home in the afternoon with a new car. I mean, it's not been that quick. But for sort of 6 months leading up to the decision to move away from it, I got to drive a couple of different 997s, and I got to drive the GTS particularly, or specifically, and thought that was great. I also got to experience the 991 a few times. And then during that kind of 2-week period where I was seriously considering making the sale, I think I probably test drove just locally here in the Twin Cities about 6 or 7 991s. And every time I got in one, I just thought, yeah, this is the right decision, but the steering wheel is not the one I want, or it hasn't got the exhaust I want. I couldn't find that sort of perfect combination of options locally, which is why I had to go to California in the end. But I think I did think through that.
How old was the car you went for in the end?
My 991 is a 2013, so it's 7 years old now.
And did you see, when you drove that many 991s that close together, did you see much difference in them in terms of, you know, how they've been kept and how they drove, or were they pretty similar car to car?
I would say most of them, the exteriors, they were all pretty much the same. They all looked like they were in good condition. The interior was a mixed bag. There were quite a few 991s that were spotless on the outside, but the bolsters had been worn, and there were quite a few almost like fingernail scratches on the handle, on the steering wheel. And also, I felt like there were a lot of people out there that went for the sort of Bobby basic 991. They went for the basic steering wheel, which I think is a bit ugly compared to the sports steering wheel. They went for the basic interior instead of the leather. They just went black, 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 you know, kept it really simple. It was really difficult to find a 991 on the used market that was essentially anything other than black and basic. So I was quite lucky to find my 991, which had some leather. It had the sports chrono. It had the PDK. It had the sports steering wheel. They were sort of like on my wish list. I didn't get the sports exhaust, but I put that in with Porsche of Minneapolis after the fact.
Nice. I was just curious to see how they're aging, because that's always a big, you know, and interesting to keep an eye on, I think, is how certain cars are aging when they get into that sort of age. So it's interesting to hear about interiors. Is something to look out for then.
Yeah, you know, I got a feeling for a lot of those sort of C2 or 991 C2s that they were sort of leases potentially, and that,
That's
you know,
what I was thinking. Yeah, leases.
yeah, like you have it for a couple of years. That, you know, you throw it around, you don't really treat it with a lot of respect, and then you give it back.
Yeah.
That I got the feeling from quite a few cars that I was driving like a rental car, actually, from how they've been looked after. As opposed to 997s, I tried quite a few 997s, and they were all in like really good nick, really good condition. You tell that people owning those cars were really loving those cars and taking good care of them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It has to be said, super interesting, because I think the perception is that would be the other way around, but clearly not.
Yeah. I know quite a few people with the higher end 991s, and they're all aging really well, especially with the leather interiors. I think there's something about the basic plastic trim that only looks new for so long, and then once it starts to wear, it gets a bit of a shine. You can see where, you know, people put their elbows all the time, and actually a lot of those plastic panels warp. There's a big issue with the first generation 991 in particular. There are so many people who are having to spend thousands of dollars once their cars are out of warranty replacing the door panels, because they're bending and peeling back from the window in the sun. And in the US, there are loads of people buy, Porsches basically are available all over the US. But when you look at the used car market, the vast majority of them either come from California, where it's really hot, Texas or the Southwest, where it's really hot, or Florida, where it's really hot. And it's not surprising that a lot of the cars that come from those areas, and mine was one of them, have this issue with the door panels. And that can set you back like $1,500 per door if you have that issue. Doesn't happen with the leather, though.
Yeah, that's mad, absolutely mad. I mean, yeah, I would say just by virtue of our climate alone, we don't really see that over here. But I have to say, it would be a nice problem to have almost. But I have to say, from the 991s I've kind of jumped in and that over the years, I think that interior has aged really nicely, actually. I haven't seen one that's, I've thought has been in bad nick, and I think what I also like about the 991 is, even though the 992, as we know, is like a quantum leap forward in terms of digitization and stuff, I don't sit in a 991 today and feel like it's old, old tech. I think the layout it still feels really really fresh, really opulent. I like the layout, and in terms of kind of technology, I feel like it's just enough, like the fourth digital screen on the dashboard. I'm totally fine with there being one digital clock amongst the four other analog, rather than the 992, which is screens either side of a tacho. And again, like the PCM screen, it's kind of a small, succinct size, isn't it? Not kind of elongated across the dashboard. So it's a really nice place to be. And I think they've aged well, personally.
James, did you retrofit the Apple CarPlay on your 991?
I did, yeah.
How did that go? Was that straightforward, or would you do it again?
Oh yeah. In fact, I've helped several people install it in their car so far. I did a FaceTime session with a follower of my channel for a couple of hours to help him install it into his 991, and one of my friends here in the Twin Cities, I did for him. I still have the scar actually on the back of my hand from where the I made a mistake and the trim dug into it and he got blood everywhere, but that's another story. It was a really fun job, actually. As far as retrofitting and kind of DIY jobs go with the car, I would say that it's one of the more, I wouldn't say difficult, but involved. Like, you really have to be committed. You are taking apart the central console. You are pulling out the PCM. You are going into the circuitry to pull apart the circuit boards, and you've got to remember how it all goes back together. But if you're good at following instructions, it's a relatively straightforward job. It took me about probably took me about 3 hours to do it, and then it took me 2 hours to figure out that I hadn't done one step correctly, which apparently bites a lot of people. So it actually took me.
You
about
have to go
5
back
hours.
and restart.
Oh my God. I put it in the car and out of the car and disassembled it and reassembled it like several times. And what it was there was a single wire in the old wiring harness that should have been moved and put directly into the back of the PCM instead of going into the back of an adapter. And that was it. It was like a 10-second fix, but it wasn't in the instruction manual from the manufacturer. And I sort of stumbled across it by accident. And now my DIY video and on my blog, I've just like put in huge, shining lights. Don't forget this step. A lot of people come to me for advice on that job, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And it functions really well. I feel like it's helping to preserve the life of the first gen 991, because a lot of people are craving the more sort of modern PCM experience. And it's not just Apple CarPlay; it also gives you the Android compatibility as well.
That's a really really cool thing to do, isn't it? To, like you said, just to bring the 991 Gen 1 stuff, but just back up to modern day, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it functions, as expected. I would recommend it. You can get it from a couple of different places. There's a company in the UK that sells an equivalent, and looking at the equipment that you get and the screen, I imagine it's made by the same manufacturer in China, and they sell it underneath a couple of different brand names around the world because they all essentially seem to be the same thing. But it's a cool bit of kit. I paid $350 US for it, and then that was it. Straightforward.
That's really good value, isn't it? Really good value.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say that and my exhaust are probably the two things that I've done to the 991, which I am still really super happy with. The wrap, we'll see.
What's the feeling on the wrap then? You've not taken to it as much as you thought you would.
Well, I still like how it looks. I really like how it looks. And the shop that did it, Print Lab Wraps in Lakeville, Minnesota, did a great job of installing it. And it
Yeah,
still looks brand new, but there's just something about knowing that it's temporary that
yeah,
kind of just plays on my mind. I think if it was a paint job, I would still have the same kind of reservations about it. I don't think I would like Lee. I wanted to ask you, like, your car looks brand new, but in one of your videos, you showed sort of behind the scenes that, or under the covers, that you didn't take the paint all the way through the car. It's an exterior
Yeah.
paint job. You haven't gone underneath your deck lid and a few other places. How do you feel about that paint job? Do you feel like, can you live with that? Is it on your mind that it's a green car, but it's not really a green car?
No, not at all. I absolutely love that paint. I
Okay.
do not get bored of looking at it. And yeah, do you know what? I think you've just got to do something that's kind of right for you, and whatever that is, budget wise, etc. And I'm fine with the fact that we didn't take the engine out. It wasn't an engine out respray. It was just we
Yeah.
essentially removed the induction. And satin blacked as far as the eye can see. I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. In fact, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, the driver's side window cable broke, and while the guys at Right Tune were swapping the window mechanism over, obviously the door card's off, and you can see green, green, green. Then there's a definitive line, and then it's Zenith blue. And I
Yeah.
don't mind that because it's quite
Okay.
literally the history of that car is evident in
yeah.
its paint. You know.
Yeah.
I think I've definitely got over that point of view that everything's got to be perfect. I've kind of got over that. I'd
Yeah.
much rather it be a driver and that it's got a bit of character to it. So it does, yeah. It tells the story, doesn't it? You don't. Everything doesn't need to be perfect.
Definitely,
Yeah.
and by that same token, James, as well, you were mentioning about the color palette of the 991 Gen 1 and like the early cars, but by the end of the 991 generation Gen 2, there were some fantastically vibrant colors, weren't there? Lava orange, Miami blue,
Yeah.
etc. You know, not Viper green. So, but the early stuff, the palette was a little bit sort of
Just black or
subdued,
silver,
shall we
wasn't it?
say?
That's the only
Yeah,
choice, I think.
that's it. Yeah, I think like racing yellow was in there. Guards red obviously looks beautiful on any generation 911, I think. But so it's nice that
Yeah.
you've done something different, James. That's the whole point. And the beauty of the wrap is you can take it off and go back to the color it was before. It's not an issue, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love how it looks. I sometimes sit out here in the garage, if I'm working on the Cayenne, I feel like I'm not concentrating because I'm looking over my shoulder, looking at the blue 991. But yeah, something about the fact that it's temporary. There have been a couple of times in the past month where I haven't been able to get to sleep at night, for whatever reason, and it's been like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've thought, yeah, maybe I'll go down to the garage while the kids are asleep, and I'll just get the wife's hairdryer out and see if I can take the wrap off.
What a way to counter insomnia.
Oh, I know. But I am the
Um,
guy, like, if there's something to pick at, I will pick at it until I've, buried myself in the hole that I've dug. And so that was the steering wheel. That was the steering wheel incident. I was not going to give up. I was going to get that airbag out of that car, and I didn't care what happened. So I ended up stabbing, the hell out of it, which didn't work. I still didn't get it out. But yeah, with the wrap, I feel like I've got to somehow come to terms with the fact that it is going to stay blue for the next couple of years if I keep the car that long, which I probably will. And I've got to resist the temptation for getting out the hairdryer and just making a new DIY video. In today's video, I will be taking off the wrap I put on 6 weeks ago.
yeah. In today's video, boredom prevails. James, say we're super keen to keep following you and watch your Porsche story as it flourishes. So we appreciate you coming on here and kind of giving us an update on where you're at on that.
Thank
the
you.
beauty, no, it's our pleasure. The beauty of yourself in being a guest panelist for us is we can kind of get you involved in the nitty gritty of kind of the Porsche stories of the week and what's on our agenda. So we hope you'll stay with us for that because top of it, big news is the 992 Targa has broken this week. So what do you guys think of it? Do you like it? It's essentially the 991 system, isn't it, on the 992? But what do you guys think?
I'm going to be controversial and say I don't like the arse end on it. think it looks a
Really?
bit. Yeah, I think it all looks a bit big, bit like the Coupe 992 does, and it kind of accentuates that. I saw a rear picture of it, and I was like, ooh. Where on the 991, it's just such a good shape and proportions are right. I just thought the 992 doesn't look quite right.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'm going to
actually,
agree
it's
with
funny.
you
I
there,
thought the
Andy.
opposite to that. I thought they actually
Really?
didn't do bad on the line. I was expecting it to be because the back is so much higher, isn't it, on the 992 than 991? I thought that
Yeah.
line's gonna be really difficult to get, and I thought when you look at a side profile, I thought it kind of worked quite well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Joe on that. I have to say, I think the 992 generally on its rear, it's quite bulbous, isn't it, in appearance? But I think, I don't know whether it's just the classic look of the Targa. It just seems to kind of bring it down a notch, and I think it works quite well from the back actually.
Oh wow. We've
I
got
thought
two each way.
I thought your little video, on Targas on your 911 guy Lee was pretty good. It was quite nice to get a little bit of an in-depth dig there into it as well.
Well, you're a fan of the Targa, aren't you, Joe? You've made no secret of the fact you'd like to own one day.
Oh, love it. Yeah, and I keep, I'm watching a few at the moment. I'm trying to, I'll tell you the toss up. Oh, give me your opinion. Tell me what you think. So would you go sort of Targa 4S? Would you try and go all out Targa GTS? And then do you go Gen 1 or Gen 2? 991s, these are obviously. I know, that much more power on Gen 2, 991, and Targa's heavy. That said, budget wise, you're probably another 20 grand on, and different sort of car. So what do you reckon in terms of if you're going to plump for a 991 Targa, what would you go for?
GTS. You need the power. It's a heavy car.
Yeah, I think James is right. I know we've discussed it before. It's a heavy car. It needs that turbocharged engine. Otherwise, I'd usually say to people, maybe consider the Gen 1. It's naturally aspirated. It sounds great, and it's cheaper. But with the Targa, just due to the weight, I think it needs those turbos to kick it down the road a bit.
So, all right, spend the money then.
Yeah, yeah. It's turned out to be an expensive pod for Joe.
They return their value well. The Targa of all of the models, they maintain their value the best, right? So I wouldn't say it's an investment, but you're not going to be burning your cash as quickly as you might with another model.
Yeah, there's always a way to justify it. I think that works for me.
Onto the floor.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, onto the wife. It's the 992 looks fabulous, but I think the 991 is just amazing value. And the more these 992s come out, I think the 991 just looks even more amazing value where the prices come down, and it's such an amazing car. So
I've just been having a look at some pictures of the 992 against the 991. 991 looks so much better. It really does. Sorry, guys. You got it wrong.
Is that Gen 1 or Gen 2, Andy?
Because
the Gen 2 is the light bar is just that single bar that kind of stretches right across the rear. I think these are
I think these might be Gen 1s then. They've got
Gen 1.
They have got the light bar going across.
Yes, and then you'll have like two like triangles almost at the side poking out. Yeah. They both look great. Both look absolutely great. Yeah. James, have you ever considered a Targa or a cab for that matter, or are you just purely coupe?
Well, my 996 was a cab, and I hated it, frankly. I didn't like it.
Really?
I've made some pretty bad decisions in my day, and buying that 996 was one of them. I mean, just think about it this way. I bought that car because it came with the hardtop, not because it was a cabriolet. Yeah. I thought, well, it gives me everything I want, and I can have the hardtop, and it'll look like a coupe. And actually, I scratched the back of it a couple of times trying to take that hardtop off by myself. So I ended up just leaving the hardtop on, and it looked like a mushroom sat on the back of my 996.
Brilliant.
So forget it. And I think, until the 991, the 997 cabs, you just lose that. You lose the silhouette essentially. So I'm not a big fan of the cabriolet. And the Targa, I do really like the Targa, like on paper. And I've driven one a couple of times. My friend Chris had one before he moved to the 992. He had the second gen 991 Targa, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. But I just can't be doing with all the mechanics and the machinery and getting it up and getting it down. Yeah. I'm pretty basic like that. I just want the coupe, and I just want everything to be simple. And so I don't think I'll ever own a cab or a Targa, but I can appreciate them for what they are. I think they're pretty beautiful cars.
I was thinking earlier, do I want a Targa? Would I, I've thought about it in the past, and I my I came down to this decision is that if I've got to have one Porsche 911, then it's always going to be a coupe. I couldn't have a Targa as your only one because you'd miss that silhouette, and that's the big draw, I think, to the 911 is that silhouette.
Yes.
It is, isn't it? But then it's madness because if you look at the 991 lineup and even the 997 before that, there are actually 3 variants of open topped 911, which is absolutely bonkers when we talk about purists and that silhouette in the cab, the Targa and the Speedster. So there is absolutely an appetite for an open top 911.
What do you think about the Speedster? Do you like the Speedster? I've never been able to get behind it. It just looks a bit odd to me.
I think it looks epic. I really do.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, I have to say, I very much like the idea of an open top 911. It's horses for courses, isn't it? And the 911 lineup is very good at catering for everybody. I think if you've got absolutely zero aspirations of going anywhere near a track, I actually think a Targa is a brilliant choice for a 911 as a good everyday 911. You can jump in, really beautiful boulevard cruiser, super practical, but also like nice, and it's fast as well. It still handles well. It's obviously just not a track car. But yeah, open top 911s. I like the idea of it for that reason. The Speedster definitely goes beyond that a little bit, doesn't it? Because it just puts like a Banshee performance 911 without a roof. But I do
it's growing
like
on me. I think
to
to start with, I was a bit unsure, but I think it's weirdly the Speedster is growing on me. I think I just quite like some of the refined trim stuff they obviously do on the specials, which just make it that much more special. I think.
Yeah, it's got some pretty special bits on it, isn't it? When you start opening it up and you see all the interior and the bits at the back and the cover and everything, it's got some very special stuff.
Well, you sold me. That should be the tagline. The Speedster. It's got very special bits. Here's 5.
Yeah, that'll do. I think it's just the fact, isn't it, that you've got that beautiful, naturally aspirated flat 6 engine that absolutely sings at the Redline, which is 9,000 RPM, and the fact that you can experience that with the roof down and just hear that absolute noise from behind you. I just think it is very, very special, very special. But having said that, I think traditionally the whole point of the Porsche Speedster was a paired back Porsche, wasn't it? And that was the point. Very minimalist equipment. That's where the 997 Speedster went so wrong. So if you were to have a super paired back 911 proper bogo in a Speedster style, I think that'd be quite cool. But then again, here we just don't have the climate for it, do we? That car's built for California.
Yeah.
So that's our conclusion on the 992 Targa anyway. Is that
split decision? I think
the Speedster's pretty cool. So yeah, excellent. We'd also been talking amongst ourselves, hadn't we, about great roads, and you'll know, James, that we're in the midst of a lockdown, which is tentatively easing over here in the UK at the moment, but we're still obviously staying at home where we can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're craving for a road trip and that ultimate road. What's your absolute favourite road? I know you commented on one of our Instagram posts, but do tell.
It's every road that you use in Total 911 magazine. I don't know what you do, but like the winding roads in the Highlands in Scotland, or that winding road in, is it Austria or Germany? I want to drive those roads. I mean, over here in the US, we've got some beautiful roads like the PCH from San Francisco down to LA. There are some incredible parts of that road. The views are spectacular. The Tail of the Dragon, which is in the Smoky Mountains in sort of Tennessee, North Carolina way, that's phenomenal. It's like 10 or 11 miles, 300 and something turns. It's pretty scary in places. But those, whatever roads you go on for your photo shoots, I want a bit of that, please. Yes, please.
Good cars need good roads, don't they? Is a fact. With the Tail of the Dragon, though, because obviously it's a well-known road, an infamous road in many ways. But I mean, is it all it cracked up to be in terms of tourist traffic? Because I've heard murmurs that actually in peak summer it's undrivable.
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, okay, I've only been there once, but that was sort of this time last year. In fact, I think it was actually this weekend last year.
Mm.
There was one day when there's a place called Deal's Gap, which is kind of right in the middle of the turns. It's like right slap bang in the middle of the road, end to end, where there are a couple of touristy sort of places where you can go and buy your T-shirt or your coffee mug or your bumper sticker or whatever that says, I got slapped by the tail or whatever it was. But apart from that one day in that one place where it was just like going down the high street on a Saturday afternoon. You get to that one little bit, which is slow, and then it opens up again. It was fine. I mean, we drove it at 1 a.m, 9 a.m, 3 in the afternoon, 7 o'clock at night. I must have, over the 4 or 5 days we were there, went backwards and forwards about a dozen times and never had a problem with traffic apart from that one Saturday. And even then, it was like a quarter of a mile. I think maybe it's a different story in the height of summer, but I don't know. I didn't have an issue at all, and the scenery there just spectacular. Just I can't wait to go back again.
How far is that from you?
We did it in 18 hours non-stop.
Wow.
It's like 1,100 miles. Yeah, it's pretty far.
Good trip.
That is hard.
Good trip.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where we thought, we could probably do it, and then of course a few people are late, and then you take 2 or 3 more stops than you were planning to take, and then you sort of hit the 15 hours which Google Maps told you it was going to be, and you're still 3 hours away, and you were wishing that you were going to sleep in the car instead of continuing on. When we do it again, we're going to stop in. I think we're going to stop in St. Louis on the way and sort of break it up. But yeah, that was a hell of a drive. 18 hours in a 997 for a big guy like me.
Yeah, that's a long way and a fair commitment to a great road. It has to be said.
Yeah.
Andy, what about you?
I think I said my favourite road the other week, didn't I? The Col de Torini. What other roads? I've done all the big passes, the Stelvio, that sort of thing. That the Stelvio trip was quite interesting. That was in an old Audi 100 estate that had air leaks in the vacuum system, so the brakes weren't working quite correctly, and it kept stalling when we went into the corners because of the vacuum leak. So the steering would all go hard into one of the corners. It was all a bit sketchy, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you going up or down Stelvio?
Sorry?
Were you going up or down Stelvio? Because you don't be going down Stelvio with no brakes.
Yeah, well, it was up and down, wasn't it? I think we were heading down towards Italy, came up the other side. Yeah, it was all good fun.
Sounds.
What's your favourite?
In the UK, huge fan of the B4391, which goes from Festiniog, Snowdonia, and actually does go all the way down pretty much to Shrewsbury. But the best bit for me is between Festiniog and Bala. Yeah. Kind of gives you a bit of everything, like technical bits, slower technical bits, and then faster flowing roads. That's absolutely outstanding. But I mean, there's so many good roads in Scotland, and actually there's loads of them. Everyone talks about the North Coast 500, which is brilliant on the west side. But Scotland's got loads of amazing roads in the Highlands anyway. Even if you wanted to venture a little bit off piste from the North Coast 500, really.
I think it always takes a bit of planning, doesn't it?
It does.
You need to do a bit of planning, because if you just go somewhere, it's very easy to miss the golden road that you kind of hope that you'll come out on. But you actually need to get onto Google Maps and have a good look around and try and work out what's going to be good.
Yeah, well, you use that biker app. Is it Riser, Andy?
No, Kalimoto.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, I don't know what that app it is that I'm on about, but that seems fairly decent for putting you on a decent enough path.
Yeah, it does. It definitely gets you on the right track.
Completely by chance. I think I texted Andy for what was that app the other day, just have a little look at it, and I did download it and got it going, and that was it looks pretty good. It sort of picks out all the A roads pretty much, doesn't it? A and B roads, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got I can't say the word. A logarithm. I can say it. A logarithm. Algorithm. Thank you, James.
And a logarithm. What the hell is that?
God knows. And what it does, it finds. So if you put your start point and your end point, or you want to do a round journey, and it looks for the windiest road the widest route possible. And then you can adjust it to say, oh, I think I fancy that bit, or yeah, I know that bit. It's not very good, that bit. But yeah, really helps.
Yeah, it's
What
cool
about you then, Joe? What road are you pointing the 912 on once we can venture out again?
I don't know about the 912. I think in this country, probably there's some of those bits of Wales that we did a couple of years ago were brilliant. I think I said this before, but those where you got through the Slate Valleys, I think were just incredible. So I definitely, probably not far off where you were saying up near sort of Ballard, just below that, I think, isn't it? The Slate Valleys there.
Is that like Riada where we stopped off at the Slate Mine, or is that?
Yeah, there's the Slate Mine, and then there was the roads that ran out from that, ran north from there that were just brilliant, I thought. So yeah, that would probably be in this country. And I think if we're going to head over to Europe, then I think the Swiss Alps bit that we ran, I can't remember the name of the roads there. You'll remember what the passes were, but it was just absolutely incredible. We had 20 foot of ice wall one side and sheer drops the other, and just incredible mountain passes and cobbled roads, and nobody there. It was deserted. We had the place to ourselves, if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, Europe does have some fantastic roads. I think from a UK perspective, our own roads do get overlooked, and maybe where kind of foreign travel might be restricted for the next few months, it might lend to petrol heads kind of looking at internal road trips. And again, Wales is well trodden for many people, but Scotland is absolutely worth the extra slog to get up there because the roads are fantastic. The roads in the Cairngorms are absolutely beautiful. The old military road there is fantastic. But as I say, there are so many awesome roads up in the Highlands. It really is worth the trek up there.
Did any, because we did a post on Instagram asking for people's roads. I don't know if anybody said anything up in Scotland in that list. I'm just having a look through. There was Chetman. He came back with a few good ones. There was something that does point out to me is the Route Napoleon. Isn't that something that you really like, Lee?
Yeah, I did like. Yeah, and there's yes. To be honest, I prefer that to Col de Torini, although I think Col de Torini is the more famous one. But yeah, that's a wonderful road, and again has a bit of everything.
Right. Whereabouts is that? Is it down the same sort of area?
Yeah, like literally, like exact same sort of area, like just above like Cannes and that sort of way.
Yeah.
Chapman, again, thank you for these when you've posted them on our Instagram page. We appreciate that. But yeah, Chapman has mentioned the Grosslochner, which we were going to go and do that later this year, actually, weren't we? Before the world kind of got tipped upside down.
Yeah,
but that's
we were meant to be there about now, weren't we?
Yeah. But I mean, that road was used by Ferry Porsche back in the very early days as kind of the test route for early Porsche 356s. So there's like high Porsche historical reference on that road. So yeah, that was a good one. Buster Conrad, which is a fantastic Instagram handle, by the way. He's put a tie between Mount Hamilton Road, which starts in San Jose, California, midpointing at the Lick Observatory, which is at the top. And you go down the other side, down to Patterson. He says here. I've done that road, but I've only gone to the Lick Observatory and back, and I've done that road a couple of times with the Sharkworks guys. And let me tell you, that road is mad. It's so like darts, left, right, hairpin, left, right. Cambers are all over the place, and the corners come so thick and fast. But that road is what the Sharkworks guys use as their testing ground.
Yeah.
So in terms of kind of getting a chassis of a 911 nailed, that is the road to do it on, and I think that speaks volumes of just how good that one is. But yeah, Buster Conrad has put that one up there, rightly so, but he's tied that with the Costa Brava in Girona, Catalonia. Various roads between Tossa de Mar and Le Franc, I've butchered that, no doubt, make up a series of winding, cliff-hugging curve orgies.
Well, way with words.
Yeah, but that's a great shout, to be honest with you. A great shout.
Spain's just opening back up for tourists, isn't it? Should we head on over?
Yeah,
that'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. There are some cool driving roads in Spain, but it doesn't, for petrolheads, it doesn't appear to be like the go-to place, does it? People just tend to kind of the Alps.
Yeah, that's true. Because when you go down to the bottom, it's the Pyrenees, isn't it? At the bottom between France and Spain.
Yes.
We went down there on holiday. We drove down in a little smart roadster, and we sort of had a good couple of weeks down there and did quite a lot of little mountain driving. And there was some amazing stuff down there. Probably worth another visit sometime.
Yeah, it goes without saying. We appreciate everybody pitching in as well on our Instagram page. That to let us know.
There's a couple of funny
roads.
Before we get off of that. There's a couple of funny local ones. I don't know if you noticed them. There was S1 Ward with Westover Road, which is a notorious road in Bournemouth that used to be the sort of boy racer road around Bournemouth.
Oh, really?
yeah. That made me chuckle. So
Westover, Ashley Road as well. No, that's not a great road. That's the opposite of a great road. Ashley Road.
The straightest road.
Oh my God, yes, awful. Yeah. But no, we appreciate those. So keep them coming on our Instagram page. That's absolutely dandy. Any other business guys?
I wanted to ask some questions of James on his car lift, because I'm thinking of getting one.
Get one.
Go on then.
So how's it going? What do you think to it? Good decision?
Well, definitely a good decision. Apart from the setup and then trying to figure out how to get it down without a car on it, because it just won't move and I had to hump it into submission, like quite literally. It's
weird visual picture then.
but so I had to get into a position where I was putting my weight on the lift, but I was also pushing the down button. And the only way to do it was to lie down on the lift and hold the down button.
So is that a top tip? Don't put it up without a car on it.
Yeah, and actually a lot of people were suggesting that I test it out first without a car on. And I thought, well, that sounds reasonable. That sounds fine. But of course, they're not necessarily designed to go up and down without a car on. So that was about a good 25 minutes of humping to get it down to the ground. But go for it. As long as you got the space and, you got a friend to help you set it up. I love it. Yeah. It's really, really cool.
Just makes things so much easier, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I think, it looks like you've got the luxury of a fairly good-sized garage over there, James. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they make things big over here in the US of A. I've got about, I don't know how to describe this in UK terms, but it's about 800 or 900 square feet. It's a 3-car garage. You get 3 cars in comfortably, 2 SUVs and the 911.
Crazy!
Wow,
that is awesome. Actually, James, you might be able to solve a little quandary that we have, or a debate that we've had on this podcast a couple of times, in terms of UK v US Porsche enthusiasts or motoring enthusiasts. Do you feel that the guys in the States are just more sort of mechanically minded, perhaps, or happy to roll their sleeves up and tinker than people here in the UK?
Yeah, I would probably say so, actually. Just looking at my friends who are car enthusiasts, there are more of them that are excited about doing their own oil changes and changing their own wheels and brakes and so on, to avoid a trip to the dealer than not. Where not that I had a big car enthusiast, group of friends in the UK when I lived there, but I had quite a few friends with Beamers and Porsches and so on, and none of them wanted to tinker with their car. They'd drive it, they'd track it, but they wouldn't tinker. So I'd probably agree with that. I look at the sort of the houses in my neighborhood and my wife's friends, and pretty much everyone has a garage with a workbench and, a circular saw or, a lift or loads of tools that my friends in the UK wouldn't necessarily have, and probably just because, we don't have the space back.
Yeah, okay, yeah, very interesting. Just an observation that we've picked up. Again, a lot of people that we've spoken to on the podcast tend to be from the US for whatever reason. It's just serendipity, really. But Andy, you're incredibly hands-on, but I think you're possibly the exception and not the rule amongst the UK car community.
Maybe. I think we need to get out in the garage, boys.
Well, this is it. If you buy this ramp, you can be renting it out to us lot.
Yeah, that's true.
A couple of weeks.
So. We're making some cash.
I'm definitely not helping you put it down if you get it stuck up there, Andy.
Yeah, no humping. I don't want to be witness to the humping.
Right, so James, we're going to hit our 10-question quickfire round. Are you ready?
Pressure. Yes. All right, let's do it.
Right, question number 1, air or water?
Water.
Question number 2, favourite Porsche model?
997 GT3. First
Nice.
generation.
Has to be. Right, number 3, favourite Porsche colour?
Ooh. I'd probably say Mexico blue.
Oh, very good choice. Number 4, ultimate Porsche icon?
Why not? Lee Sibley. Go ahead.
Yeah. Money's in the post. Money's in the post.
We're going to be hearing about that for weeks now.
Yeah. My mate James in the States.
Right, okay, back to question number 5. Favourite track?
Favorite what?
Favourite track, as in driving track?
I'm sorry. I would say Silverstone.
Oh, very interesting. And question number 6, too foosh or not too foosh in relation to the favourite wheels?
Foosh.
Hey. Number 7, stock or hot rod?
Hot rod.
Hey. Number 8, narrow or wide body?
Wide body. Yeah, absolutely.
And number 9, cars and coffee or a track day?
Cars and coffee.
And number 10, to back seat or not to back seat?
No back seat. Although it doesn't really make a difference to me because whether I've got one or not, I'm never getting in the back of that space in the 911. Just physically won't work.
Do
That's
you
a
ever
good
have
10.
little people in your back seats, or is it are they banned?
No, my son Luke likes to get in the back seat every now and again, but he doesn't like the car seat, so we have to pretend that we're driving places because we don't actually drive anywhere.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That is that's a quality 10, that, James. So thank you. And
you would say that.
yeah. No, they've got to be the best ones yet. I'd say definitely. Right. Okay. Well, look, James, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on our podcast. Thank you so much for your time today. And it goes without saying, all the very best with the 991 and with Project 996. And we will keep up to date with what you're doing via YouTube, of course, and your own podcast, Auto Amateur.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been a real pleasure. Cheers.
That was a fun week, chaps, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, lots going on. I don't know about you, but I really like our panellist setup where we kind of get those involved with just kind of general debate. Really, it's nice and breaks things up a bit, doesn't it? So
it does. That's good. It's good getting in and ribbing, isn't it? A little bit.
Yes,
but
without a doubt.
You did quite well on the top 10 there, Lee.
Yes, I mean, it goes without saying. I'm just coming off PayPal now with a little transfer to James for the answers there. That was ideal.
How are you going to get out the front door tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or even out the office where you are now?
You're going to be trading in your 996 for a KN, aren't you?
I think so, yeah, just to fit my ego inside. Yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, it's great, isn't it? Like I say, I feel like James is one of us, just a Porsche enthusiast who lives and breathes the brand, is very happy to share his experiences, in his case, via the mediums of podcast and YouTube. And I do think that's to the benefit of absolutely everybody. So,
definitely.
tops, absolutely tops.
I think he's very truthful about his, what's the word? In his title, it's amateur. He's been through some trials and tribulations over the years in what he's done to his cars. And he's not sort of afraid to say, I'm not really the master mechanic, but goes for it.
Nice to see someone pulling apart a 991 as well. I think that's braver than most, isn't it?
Without a doubt, yeah, huge kudos there. Well, look, we'd love to reveal what's coming up next episode, but the truth is we haven't got a clue, have we?
Well, we've got half a plan. We just don't know which bit of it we're going to implement.
Yeah, let's spend some time doing that.
Yes. We'll come off the mic, bang our heads together collectively, and make sure there's another Road to Redline episode ready to go very soon. But until then, we better sign off, guys, haven't we? And pull a finger out, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think
Good-
maybe
good
a
to see
little
everybody.
invite wouldn't be a bad thing either. If there's anyone out there that fancies coming on Road to Redline as either a panelist or an all-out interview, then I think we're obviously open for suggestions as well as people that are game as well, aren't we?
Yes, definitely. That's brilliant. Nice one, guys. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.